Good morning and welcome to today's episode of the Supply Chain Sessions. Today I'm joined by Commercial Director Geoff Yates. Good morning, Geoff.
Morning.
Good to have you in the UK on
Likewise,
this
good to be with you.
rainy British summer day. And today we're going to be talking about sustainability. Here at SPAS we've just launched our Sustainable Logistics Package. We're going to be showcasing that at Multimodal in June in a couple of weeks. But today we're going to give you, our listeners, 10 practical ways and effective ways to reduce your carbon emissions. It's always been important for us to give our customers a choice. It's not just about transit time and cost. We should be able to and want to be able to give our customers the option to make a choice based on carbon expenditure too.
Yep.
So we're going to provide a lot of 10 tips here to help and support that decision.
I was recently at Sustainable Logistics Live up in Leeds a couple of months ago. It was basically a meeting of logistics leaders. We talked from everything from sort of sustainable fuels through to rail, through to what's going on. And I think the overall message from all of that was about collaboration and about all of these things work very well separately, but actually they work great when they're all brought through together. And I think the big thing about sustainable logistics is about this community and about this sense of community and about this sense of movement, and that we're really at the start, although we're not at the start, we are really at the start of the big movement into sustainable logistics and people looking at their supply chains in a different way.
Obviously we're not, people aren't regulated at the moment.
No.
We know that global shipping contributes to over 25% of CO2 emissions. We've always been conscious of that. We have always offered intermodal solutions.
Yep.
Many years ago when I was operating on it.
Before it was sustainable, it was just
before it was a thing.
mode.
Yeah. And that's it. It was all about transit time versus cost, basically, and people would choose my Italian intermodal solutions because it was much cheaper at the time than moving direct door-to-door road freight. Obviously you'd be waiting for strikes and such like, but
few issues on the way.
If transit time wasn't a problem, then intermodal transport was the right thing for Italy, but it's evolved a lot since then. I think what sparked my interest in sustainable logistics is obviously we talk to customers on a daily basis. I'm looking after the sales team and we're members of the SMMT and the MAA. And when we go to events, trade association events like that, it's a hot topic for everybody. They have keynote speakers from all the leading automotive and aerospace companies, and every single one of them is prioritising sustainability, looking at sustainable solutions. And they are making plans for that. We've already seen a lot of changes. I've taken part and handled our EcoVadis assessment here at SPAS for the last 3 years. We're just going through the third one at the moment, and it's formed the basis for everything that we do here at SPAS. We've implemented a lot of different policies to ensure that we are sustainable. Sustainability means a lot of things, I think.
That's what I really love about the subject. It's not just transport, it's about the way you come into the business. It's about the way you heat the business. It's about the way you do your lighting or anything in there, and of course your people within it as well. I think that's why it's such a great subject to talk about.
So shall we crack on then and start with our 10 ways to reduce carbon footprint? We've got numerous tactics. They don't necessarily have to affect your bottom line. Being sustainable doesn't have to affect your bottom line. Number one on our list is actually eco-friendly suppliers. Not every supplier has, clean fuels. They're not able to offer electric vehicles. They're not able to offer you sea alternatives for air freight that you might be moving. And a lot of people won't even consider rail freight.
No.
And this is what we're passionate about at SPAS. We're able to give those choices to the client. Using a freight forwarder, if you're exporting or importing, is rather important actually when we're talking about sustainability, because they will be able to give you those choices as we are doing now. Number two on our list is educate and empower your team, Geoff.
I think this is one of those things. It's got to be through the entire team. If you're going to have a sustainable strategy in your business, leaders have to make sure that everybody in that team is empowered to choose sustainable. I think one of the issues that I see on the horizon is perhaps people agreeing that yes, our strategy as a leadership team should be sustainable and we should be more sustainable. That message not necessarily coming down all the way to the people who are actually booking their jobs out. So there's got to be that pressure away from the operator of getting the best price, and actually you've got to empower them to be able to make the sustainable So they choose the sustainable solutions when they can. Obviously, again, we always say it's about transit time and about price. It's all got to fit, but you've got to empower your team to make those sustainable choices as well.
You do. I think we've noted amongst the sales team that there's more appetite for sustainable solutions in key sectors such as aerospace and automotive, because you've got your big players there, all making strategic decisions because of their size and power, and that filters down through the supply chain to the tier ones and the tier two companies that are working with them, and ultimately through us. When we are prospecting a client, they will ask us if we've got an EcoVadis rating, and we have. And there's a good decision for going that way. But at the moment, other than those choices, it's not a regulated thing.
No.
But it will be. We know it's coming.
I think regulation it's on its way, and we don't know what form that's going to take yet and where it's going to come from. But you're right, it is coming. It's got to be it's got to be on people's vision boards. It's going to come, but we just don't know how yet and when.
There's many people, as well as us, a lot of our suppliers are also making decisions to plan for that. I know you're off to Munich in June as well, aren't you, to Transport Logistica to chat about this very thing with a lot of our suppliers. Number 3 on our list is actually, choose greener transport modes. I've just mentioned electric vehicles. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about hydrogen and other equivalent fuels. But people, as well as different fuel options, people are planning well in advance. And I think as a time critical logistics provider, this is an area that we've seen move quite dramatically. So just in time freight for your key sectors still exists, but there seems to be less of it. People are better planned. People are consolidating. People are mindful of that carbon footprint, and the actual way that transport is booked and moved, that has changed. There's been a big shift in that regard.
Big shift last sort of 5 years, especially in terms of software and planning software. All of these issues that we seem to have sort of 5-10 years ago, a lot of them have disappeared. And of course, there will still be breakdowns. There will still be issues that need expediting. Things can be planned an awful lot better now.
We've talked about AI planning software as well. AI has played a big part in this shift. Digital platform. We've ourselves invested in a new TMS in the last couple of years to allow for better connectivity, better planning, carbon measurement, carbon offset, all of those good things. But we're just one of many, and people need to make that change, and people are making that change for the good of the planet.
Yes.
We're seeing people choosing alternative fuels. We're seeing people consolidating. We've got the next phase of the EU mobility package coming as well, haven't we, next year? Part of our sustainable logistics programme is about that time critical sector, because that's a big thing for us here at ESPAS. But we've talked about express groupage. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So it leads on actually nicely to my next point about consolidation and about what you can do with your shipments. And one of the things we've always spoken about for many, many years is about consolidation. So we know that moving one consignment on one truck is the fastest way of doing it. Actually, you can put a couple of consignments together on one truck, and you might lose a tiny little bit of transit time. In terms of finances, in terms of carbon, it's very, very efficient. So it's about looking again, about planning and making sure that you've got as many shipments as you can on one particular vehicle, doing one delivery, and that leads into the express side as well. So what can we do differently that's going to, but basically, sorry to lead you back, in 2026 we're going to have tachographs on small vehicles, which we've never had before. And all of a sudden, again, we have to start to think about differently what we're doing with those small one shipments on one vehicle consignments. And it's about planning, it's about consolidation, and about making a strategic network that will allow you to move those goods as efficiently, as quickly as possible.
It will be dramatic. It will have a dramatic impact, won't it?
I know. Yeah.
I know you're heading over to Munich with an agenda for different things.
Absolutely.
But this is quite a key topic, and you're keen to chat to other suppliers about that, to see what other people have got planned, because there's been a lot of talk about three men vans and all sorts of different options, and there are different options, but the fact of the matter, the just-in-time freight model will look very, very different.
It will. And again, as sustainability, we want drivers to be sustainable. We've got issues with drivers here in the UK at the moment. It's an aging population. We're struggling to get hold of drivers. So actually, you've got to try and make it an attractive marketplace to recruit these new drivers. So of course, the tachographs are coming in on those vehicles. That people will have a set working day. People won't be driving. We've never ever allowed van drivers to drive for 18, 20 hours a day. It's not safe for them. It's not safe for our consignments. We've never allowed that anyway. But it will restrict drivers to a certain driving pattern, and it'll be very good for them. And hopefully, in terms of sustainability, we'll have a sustainable driver base then going forwards instead of the declining one we've got now.
It's going to be better for the well-being of the drivers, but also for the sustainability of the environment and so on and so forth. And that is quite an unusual thing for a time-critical market, isn't
very
it?
Much.
And we're moving freight all over the world, but there's a lot of rail freight going on where there wasn't when I started 20 odd years ago, showing my age. That we wouldn't ever consider railing freight in from China, would we? But now we do, and we're doing that for sectors that naturally were led by time critical freight, but now the sustainability option is more important to them.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we've mentioned that your key sectors where that's a thing, but generally across the board the appetite isn't quite there yet, is
No,
it?
it's not. And again, I think that's the thing. You've got to make sure that your businesses are right for the future. And I think the legislation will drive that. Will drive the need for it. But again, there's many businesses who are taking those decisions now to make sure they're ahead of the curve.
I think we've actually combined 3 and 4, Geoff. Number 4 on our list was consolidate shipments, but
Yes.
we can talk about that in more detail. It is cheaper to put several consignments together. Yes, you are adding to the time frame if you're doing that, and there is sort of more handling. But if it's done properly, it does provide a very
great case. We always talk about it.
Absolutely.
A tier one at Jaguar Land Rover, very, very important. Their goods arrive all the time, but we've been able to collect goods from Poland and Germany and France and Czech, put them all onto one vehicle, send it across. It's very, very efficient. It's very efficient in terms of cost. It's very efficient in terms of time, customs clearance now. And it all works very, very well. And again, it's just thinking about how people do things and thinking a little bit differently about how you could move that consignment.
where things were very fast paced for both you and I when we were operational way back. Things are just much better planned these days. The systems are slicker.
They are.
People can make effective decisions based on data better than they ever could.
Yeah.
We were flying by the seat of our pants, and it was a very quick, fast-paced market. It just doesn't feel like that anymore.
No, very much so, yeah.
Everything's done much more rationally and planned, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is great for this sustainability piece.
It is. I think as soon as you start to put chance in there, as soon as you start to put things away from your normal schedule, that's when it becomes difficult to move things sustainably.
Absolutely. So planning is key.
Yep.
So point 5 on our list, localised supply chains. Geoff, we've talked about nearshoring for many years now. Do you want to talk a little bit more?
Yeah, I think at the moment, President Trump is helping an awful lot of people. There's the tariffs coming in have been big news at the moment. And of course, they seem to be changing. I look as part of my job, look every week about what's going on, and they seem to be changing every week. Last week, I wrote a piece about the American trade deal, an EU trade deal, an Indian trade deal, and things are happening at pace.
Yeah.
The one that really interested me was the EU and potential. It's not a recess. We won't be going back on Brexit. We won't be rejoining the customs union, but potentially try to make things easier within the EU. And the one that really caught my mind was CBAM, so the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, and the UK re-signing for the European Trading, the ETS, the emissions scheme.
Yeah.
Re-signing for the EU version of that. And basically what they're saying is they're going to align both the UK and the EU markets again, which opens up both of our markets for both sides. The reason CBAM is so important in this is because CBAM effectively allows for a tax to be charged on countries where goods are coming in from those countries who haven't got such a good sort of carbon regulations as we have. It's effectively levelling out the playing field.
Yeah.
So I can see more nearshoring. I can see more supply from the European Union, within the European Union and European Union UK.
Yeah.
I can see that happening a lot more.
We hope so.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, we began as a Spas Europe Limited. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's our registered business name.
Yeah.
So European freight is we're very passionate about European freight, and
Always will be. And yet
exactly.
the world is opening up. We're having trade agreements signed, announced left, right and centre. We've got potential of a Gulf Pact being signed in a couple of months' time.
Yeah.
The world is opening up, but I don't think Europe has ever been more important to us.
No, I have to say as well, I'm just going to add this one in, your insights piece that talked about all of these different trade deals. was brilliant. So if anyone hasn't read it, please go on our blog and have a look at that.
Thank you.
Let's move on to point 6. So we're talking about green warehousing.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you want to talk about
Yeah,
that?
I think more than warehousing, I think the idea about using a 3PL, so using a third party logistics supplier, and the reason I hark on about this all the time is it's just so efficient, and it's so efficient again in terms of financing, in terms of carbon. You as a manufacturer trader, if you've got 100 pallets, you could hire a warehouse with, I don't know, 400 or 500 pallet spaces. It's very expensive. You've got to have staff in, you've got to heat it, light it, secure it, all those things.
Yes, there's a lot goes into it.
Absolutely. If you used a 3PL, you could hire space for those 100 pallets. You would have a share, a use of those professional warehouse personnel. There will be established transport routes going in and out of there. And I think 3PL is one of those things. It's not even about being green. It's not even about being sustainable. It's about really good practice for a business.
Yeah. Connecting everything.
Absolutely.
We've noticed that. Obviously, we we collaborated and invested in a 3PL facility back in November, wasn't it? And we've seen our business evolve ever since. We've got a lot of long-standing customers that want to make use of that space. Our suppliers are also making use of that space. So it's just connected everything together in a really logical way. And we knew that would happen, but it's happened a lot more quickly than we thought. And it's actually improved, it's added another service to our portfolio.
Wonderful things again. A bit off subject really, but about being a freight forwarder, we're being a middleman and being able to provide for our suppliers, which we've never really been able to do before. Brexit gave us that because they needed help over the borders. We've now got a warehouse which helps them as well. Yeah. And it's been really nice to be part of that, like a proper 360 relationship.
It has. You always talk about win-win, and I think Tony coined that, didn't it? Well, you actually established it was somebody else.
Somebody else, yeah.
Yeah, but we talk about win-win relationships here at Espas. We do a lot of work with manufacturers, obviously, but we do a lot of work with other forwarders as well, don't we? And, we want to maintain that reputation for collaborative working.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we're just here to help everybody. Yeah. There's a lot of freight to move, and we all
need
need
freight to move. There's plenty to go around, and there's plenty in it for everybody.
Absolutely.
It's about making it as fair for everybody as possible.
Absolutely. So that leads us on to number 7, optimised packaging. Jeff, you're doing so well. Do you want to go over that one?
Kelly, you're the online shopper here, and how often have you had a box arrive that's this big for that small? And it's crazy, and that's all stopping now. I'm really pleased to say there's some really smart wrapping and packaging technology out there that can laser measure boxes and supply the packaging for that box. And of course, all of the space fillers that we used to get as well, all that bubble wrap we used to love playing with as a kid, and I feel sorry for the next generation. We're taking that away from them. Nothing greater than getting some bubble wrap as a child, but we're moving into paper, so why shouldn't that be recyclable? And it is recyclable, so there's going to be a lot less space in terms of goods on trucks because it's packaged correctly. There's going to be a lot less waste. There's going to be a lot less plastic around. The future's looking good in terms of packaging.
It is. So number 8 on our list is offset emissions. Again, we want to be able to give our clients a choice. They want, offsetting carbon is hugely important for everybody. We offset our carbon here. We're offsetting Eric's carbon.
Yes.
Our new TMS will allow us to track and also offer carbon offset solutions.
Yes.
Do you want to expand on that actually in terms of what the future looks like?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things really. There's carbon offsets, which obviously takes away the cost of the carbon, if you like, by planting trees and such like. And the ideal state really is carbon neutral, but we all know that carbon neutral isn't practically possible. It's as long as you move goods around, you won't be able to be carbon neutral. So again, it's about looking at those things of where can I reduce my carbon. The carbon I actually use and the carbon I emit, and then what you can do with that in terms of offsetting it. I think one of the really difficult things is buying these projects for a certificate. Effectively, you buying a I don't know, a share of a forest somewhere in Asia. It isn't tangible to you. What would be really good is if you can do something here around the local community we work in, and say actually we planted that forest, or we planted that wildflower meadow, and it offsets our carbon of our head office here. That's a really nice thing to do, and it's a really good thing to do. But again, it's getting this measure of it costs money. That's a cost on the business, and making sure that you're happy with. If you're happy buying the certificate, that's great. That's fine. I think again about sustainability, about doing good things in the world, there's something else apart from that. And that's what I'm sort of trying to encourage us to do, is trying to look local.
Absolutely.
And if you can go for a picnic on a Saturday with your kids in a wildflower meadow that you've planted, how amazing is that?
It's really key to us, actually, on that note. Obviously, India is a big thing for us, so we've looked at offsetting carbon, over there. But local, sort of the local environment and community projects are something that's really hot on our agenda here at ESPAS. So we're looking, as you know, at offsetting carbon with local schools in the area. That's just one way. That's just one way to do it. And like I say, we want to be able to give our clients the choice, because it needs to align with their strategy, and we'll be able to do that. Everything is
touching on that local community. The litter picking Mondays and things. I just think it's a wonderful thing to do. We walk here at lunchtimes every lunchtime really, trying to encourage people to get out, and why not go and pick some litter up on the way and make where you're working, where you're living, a better place.
Oh no, I got lost for an hour. Could have stayed litter picking all afternoon, but didn't. So number 9 on our list, digital documentation. Everything's going digital, obviously. Again, Geoff, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, again, we were a paper-based industry. You and I know, we used to print off faxes, and you used to print off the receipt off the fax and all sorts of things. It's madness, really.
Jan would have a tray, a tray stacked.
And then, of course, they'd be thrown away or shredded. And,
sadly.
Those times have gone happily, and we are moving into this world of e-documentation. So customs now, the new Customs Declaration Service is a electronic system.
Yeah.
We do print things off. We do provide paper, PDF documents for people, but they're not really not really legal tender anymore. They don't mean anything, but people like to have the email receipt or the piece of paper to say it's gone through. Perfectly understandable. But we're moving into the worlds of ECMRs and e-bills of lading. It will become a digital platform. One of the big things that I was really looking forward to, and has since been scrapped by the Labour government, was the single trade window. And the single trade window would allow you one place to put all of your data into, which would take care of 4 or 5 different declarations, one to the VAT man, one to Revenue and Customs, one to, I don't know if you're doing animal products across the border, to IPAFs or whatever. And I was really looking forward to implementing that. It's big in Brazil. I think it's big in a few Scandinavian countries. It's big in New Zealand, and it would have been one of those things it's a proper digital trade platform that would take away a lot of paperwork and connect a lot of people. So hopefully in the not too distant future that will come back.
You would hope so.
Yeah.
Surely with AI and everything that we have available to us now, that it shouldn't be that difficult.
It shouldn't. And again, just trying to connect. We mentioned a trade deal with the US and India and the EU and possibly the Middle East as well. Why wouldn't you try to connect all those digitally? It just makes sense to do that.
Yeah. So that was number 9, digital documentation. And finally, number 10 on our list is report and improve. We've touched on this slightly anyway. We've gone digital. A lot of companies have invested a lot of money in digital platforms and systems that measure and track carbon. You get your delivery, or when you're doing your shopping actually these days for Next or whatever, you're given an option, aren't you? Do you want to pick this sustainable option? Or, do you need it there sooner? Do you want to pack everything together? And effectively, that's exactly the same. What they're doing with parcels and shopping is what we're doing with freight, isn't it? We want to be able to report to people when we're quoting people. We want to be able to say, you've got this option or you've got that option. We're not that far away, are we?
No, we're not. I'm really looking forward to that. So again, the stage 1 really is to report. So once you know how much carbon this movement is costing, then great, you know that. Where I would like us to be, and it won't be far away, is I'll give you an example now of a movement from Italy to the UK on road, and you could say it's going to be X amount of pounds and it's going to cost you X amount of carbon. But if you wanted to move it on rail, we could save you 2, 3, 4, 5 tons of carbon. And this is the price. That's where I'd love us to be. But first things first is about reporting, making sure that we can report how much carbon that particular movement is costing, and then we can take a step back, and then we can start to have a look at how we can improve that.
This is all going to become par for the course, isn't it?
It will.
For everybody.
Particularly your team as a sales team, as a solutions team, really. Just offering, okay, I can give you 4 choices. This is the quickest transit time. This is the cheapest one. Actually, this is us based on relationship and trust us. And actually, this is the carbon one. This is the most carbon efficient way. And I do feel that 4th one is going to be everly increasingly.
It will. We're starting to see that. We are starting to see that. I'm quite heartened, actually, that even operationally 20 years ago, when I was providing your two-man driver solution or your rail options, even back then people were choosing that, but back then it was down to cost, and obviously it's everything's increased in price since then. A lot's changed in 20
sure
years. So to round up, if you were to recommend one thing to exporters, importers, to help them with their sustainable journey, what would it be?
I would start to map out, possibly on a big whiteboard, map out your supply chain, map out where everything's coming and where from. And once you've got a really good understanding of that and a good visualization, I think that's quite key actually, just to have a big visual of where everything's coming from, is then start to have a think about how you can pull this together, how you can better use technology to plan for those deliveries. Is there a way of consolidating, and all of the sort of quick wins? I do feel quite a lot of these are quick wins. You can put little things together that makes a really big difference. How you can start to do that, but I think that the start, job number one, is to map it all. And once you've got that visualization, then you can start to make some improvements on it.
There's a lot of people that are so busy that they haven't had the time to do that because there's so much export import within their business.
Absolutely.
Top tip from Geoff there. So that's the end of our supply chain session today. Thank you, Geoff.
Thank you.
I hope that our 10 tips have been useful for everybody listening today. There'll be more on the sustainable logistics front. If you are at Multimodal in June, come and see us. We'll be in the Beaver Village. If you want to drop us an email on solutions@espasglobalfreight.com, let us know you're coming. Let us know what challenges you've got, and if you'd like to talk about sustainable logistics solutions or anything else freight related, we'd love to hear from you.
Can I just jump in very quickly there, just before we round up? Is just again about being a freight forwarder and about the ability of us as a freight forwarder to choose the best solutions out there. And I think that's quite an important thing. That yes, you might have a relationship with a haulier, but a haulier is only ever going to sell you what they've got to sell, whereas a freight forwarder can find you the best solutions.
Absolutely.
So, as Kelly's just said, if you're at Multimodal, come and see us, come and have a discussion and see what we can get started.
We'll both be there. You get two for the price of one, as well as the rest of the sales team.
And
Eric the Bear. And Eric the Bear. Thank you.